Hello everybody and welcome back to Hearts of Iron, where we are currently attacking Venezuela in a war of attrition. Now there have been some German reinforcements over here. I believe that they are primarily concerned with the Allied troops over here, here, and here. So that is the current presumption. Although, do we know how Germany is doing with their with their manpower amounts? Okay, they have plenty of manpower. No concerns on that front, but they are definitely taking some hits on multiple sides here. Germany's not in the best of positions here. We can modify our government to add I almost read that as chef of Air Force, so I guess we're, I don't know, cooking up airplanes. Ooh, plus 10% air superiority. Yes, we're going to do that. Fantastic. Now, Venezuela, they are incredibly close to being out of manpower. So every fight that happens, they can't replace these troops effectively. They can kind of replace them, but not super efficiently. Now, we're going to have modern tanks done in 18 days. How are we going to shift over to modern tanks? That becomes the question. And that's definitely something we want to do. I think we're going to have to switch over piecemeal. We'll switch over our manufacturing immediately. Or most of it, anyway. Yeah, we'll switch over most of our manufacturing immediately. So that'll be fine. And we are stepping up our recruitment because we have a good amount of manpower now. So that is also wonderful. And this guy, he is just attacking as aggressively as possible. And we have multiple tank divisions on the way up there. So that is wonderful. Our fuel supplies have been fixed thanks to the United States. You know, our future enemies, but they don't know that they're our future enemies. We're actually winning in this battle here against this German division. Actually, that's only 1 to 7 infantry and 1 engineer division. That's not bad. The Venezuelan divisions are actually stronger than the German ones. Or at least that German one. That one too. Fascinating. Not sure why they're that way, but that's how Germany has them set up, I guess. The major issue here is that this is a very wide front, right? And we have some units that are still pretty far out there. We're not fighting Peru right now, and we are okay with that. That said, is it just me or do Peru's numbers look a little smaller now? Did they send troops up somewhere else? Because we haven't fought them at all. Their deployed manpower looks about the same, but that's a very wide range, so it's hard to say. The US wants military access. We decline. That would look like we were joining the Allies, and we are not doing that. We're actually joining no faction, it would appear. That wasn't necessarily the plan, but that's kind of the way it has shaped up. Okay, so there's our modern tanks finished up. That is wonderful. Let's immediately begin work. Let's see, we're working on experimental rockets here. Maybe centimetric radar here. I know we don't really have any radar stations built right now, but we probably will later. So that'll be a decent thing to have. And I do want to go into our armored divisions here, and I want to start replacing these with modern tank units. For now, we're just going to replace 3/4 of them. Well, we're just going to replace half of them for now, actually. So modern tanks in these locations. We'll replace half of those for now, and then we're going to go into here. We're going to add in a modern tank construction line, or production line, rather. We're going to bump this up to a grand total of 25 factories working on it. We're going to bump this back to merely 5 factories working on Heavy Tanks 3. Excellent. Now, our fuel consumption appears to have gone up. There's advanced fire control systems finishing up. That's very good for us. Let's actually start working on atomic research. That'll be pretty important later. Pretty soon, actually. So we're going to work on that. And are we actually short on fuel right now? We're actually not short on fuel. We are gaining some fuel, so that's good. That is very, very good. We are, of course, currently short on some chromium. We'll grab as much as we can from Turkey. Wait. We'll grab as much as we can from Turkey. There we go. How are we doing on our constructions? Okay. That's about what I expected. I know we're importing a lot of goods right now. So we're going to finish up 2 more refineries, work on 3 more military factories. Do we have any other locations we can construct in? That's a negative for right now. Okay. So Venezuela is, at this point, basically flat out of manpower. And this is why we're starting to see them crumble in the face of the Allies. Unfortunately, they're not really crumbling in the face of us. Hopefully we're getting some good war participation out of this, though, by keeping them busy. That's the hopes here, and then we can grab a sizable piece of this out of the peace deal or something, and then go after Peru. Probably divide this front in half would be the goal. Okay, so how many deployed modern tanks do we have? We're currently producing 1.2 per day. That's great. That's actually more than I was expecting, given what we've got going on here. So at this point, we might want to think about switching this row over to modern tanks, but I'm going to hold off on that for now. Experimental rockets. Okay, so that has finished up. That will allow us to get rocket engines, which will allow us to begin researching jet engines, which will, of course, be quite important. Okay, we'll get some additional chromium delivered from Turkey. We are starting to see some victories over here. That's good. Our main issue here is just that this is a very long line. And we could probably use additional training happening. But for now, it's okay. Let's look at our current heavy tank issues. So we're still having a deficit of heavy tanks right now, although backing off half of our heavy tanks have definitely reduced that and shifted it over into a modern tank deficit. It's not shocking, but it's where we are. We did get some gains over here. We actually managed to take this naval base. That is a fairly big deal, but not a huge deal, I suppose. And, I mean, this war is just kind of grinding to a halt up here. That's not shocking to me. This is about what I expected when I saw that Venezuela was cutting in on us. Fair enough. Actually, the German Reich is cut off over here. They don't really have supplies for this. Yeah, they were actually just full-on routed. The question is, do we get there first? I don't know. We're a long ways away. It might be us, or it might be these guys. Who is that? Canada? Australia? I don't know. I'm not super familiar with my Commonwealth flags at this period. Especially since they're dominions and not, I think, part of the Commonwealth yet. My history on that's a bit fuzzy. Yeah, they got it first. Okay, that's fine. For the time being, we are going to shorten our front line here to not include any of this. In fact, we can just straight up delete this, and we can select this entire army and assign them... I don't want to be in deletion mode. And assign them up to this plan. And there are no divisions assigned here. Hang on. I feel like we need to redo this. This got very messy very quickly. Okay. So we're going to front line here. And our offensive line is going to be like... that is kind of our plan. Okay, go ahead and execute that. And he's on aggressively execute, so that is completely fine. How are we doing on our infantry equipment? We're fine there. Wonderful. That is very, very good. We are already producing more modern tanks than we are heavy tanks. Our production efficiency cap is going to slowly rise up. So that is also pretty great. But just shortening this front is quite good for us. We did get some gains up here. This is an armor unit that's still trying to make its way through this jungle. Certainly non-ideal. We're getting close to done with our 2 extra oil refineries. Once we get those, we should be able to back off on our oil trade. Which is, of course, in here. And we're currently only getting 16 from the US, so that's great. I think we just took more territory. In fact, we did. Yeah, you can see at this point Venezuela's really starting to crumble. They apparently do have manpower now. Oh, this is Colombia. Hang on. Venezuela. There we go. Yeah, they have no manpower. They are flat out of manpower. So they are, at this point, completely crumbling. And we're managing to take quite a lot of territory. The Germans appear to be holding off the Allies, and that's good for us. We want to continue pushing in on this front. And, I mean, these movements will take some time to finish up. We're fighting in the Amazon. But all is looking reasonable for right now. Let's just make sure the Soviets haven't invaded. They haven't. Good. That would be awkward indeed if the Soviets were to invade right now. Especially as we're still ramping up our modern tank production. At this point, how are we doing on our modern tanks? Plus 2.1 per day. Okay. So, here's the thing. At this point, I want to switch this line to modern tanks. Like that. There we go. And that, of course, means we're short 6.6k, and we have a huge daily deficit of modern tanks. This isn't shocking at all. We now have a surplus of heavy tanks. So, let's cease production entirely on heavy tanks. Boom. Okay, there we go. I'm going to add 5 more modern tank factories in here, and then we'll just let this be as it is. Okay. So we're now making 2.42 modern tanks per day. And I'm actually going to bump this back to 21. Like that, and then back up to 25. So this should be at 26. There we go. United Mexican States wants to join us in our war. We decline. And we'll get ourselves some additional chromium. We are missing equipment production of heavy tanks. We know this. That is a calculated thing that is happening. We're completely okay with losing heavy tanks out of our stockpile. Excellent. So many of our units are now getting to the front line. You can see up here the Allies are... They raided our convoy. How rude! That's very rude. Very, very rude. Have the Germans completely pulled out of here? I haven't seen any German troops in a while. I believe they may have. And this got messed up by the Allies pushing out up here, which is not ideal, to be sure. I like how Peru has just sat out this whole thing. I mean, I'm fine with it. That's what they want to do. So this is an infantry division, and that will go over into our Coast Guard, of course. There is a decision available, and... Okay, dismantling the Maginot Line is an available decision if we controlled the correct region, which we very much don't. We're just going to go for region-wide industrial integration, and we are going to construct additional military factories over here And I guess we can't build it over here because we don't actually have state control. Fair enough. We're also going to construct infrastructure up there. And that's all we can do for now. That's fine. We'll prioritize construction of this military factory. Fantastic. Peru wants a non-aggression pact. Yeah, no, that's not happening. That is absolutely not going to happen. How are we doing on our heavy tanks? We're down to 1.4k heavy tanks in the stockpile. That's fine. That is completely fine. We are positive 2.9 modern tanks per day. That's really good for us. In fact, we should be positive basically 3 modern tanks per day. We've got a long ways to go on those. Luckily, we have a long way to go on our production efficiency as well. And we lost an agent here. We will be able to unlock a slot soon enough. Now, what's this guy needing to do here? Actually, this is getting pretty low down here. He's pretty much where he needs to be. We'll take that. How's the air superiority looking over here? Actually, we have 100% air superiority. Fantastic. How are our planes looking over here? And actually, oh yeah, I remember that we specifically decided not to use this one because we would have to build it up. We don't have a ton of airplanes over here, but that's fine. The Dominion of Canada wants in. They can leave. They can leave. Wait, are we successfully pushing all across this front right now? I believe we are. Amazing. I mean, we knew this would happen when they ran out of manpower, right? This was always going to happen. 12 of our divisions are on that, 6 of our divisions are on that, and 6 are on this. Which is awkward, but it's okay. Improved centimetric radar has finished. We're going to grab the best radar available. Wonderful. Now, we're definitely going to need to expand our Coast Guard after we finish taking over South America. There's no doubt about that. We're going to plop these guys into our Coast Guard. And, I mean, we do have a number more divisions. I'm going to take this up to 10 divisions in training and 5 divisions in training. I know that we're going to be struggling with our armor over here, but it should be okay for now. We're down to 1.2k heavy tanks in our stockpile right now. That's okay. And we're getting better gains here than the Allies are. I think there's no doubt about that one. And many of our tank divisions are not even at the front. Do we have any tank divisions at the front right now? Or have we been pushing just with infantry? These guys are at the front. Fair enough. No one else is. Well, this infantry division can hop into the Coast Guard, as can this one, as can this one, and really all of these. There we go. We're up to 44 units in the Coast Guard now. That is magnificent. And let's check on our recruitment here. Yeah, okay. We definitely need to work on our tanks. We knew that was going to be the case. That's why this is set up the way it is. And our modern tank production is up to 43% efficiency. We no longer have collectivist ethos. Fair enough. I think we can probably back off at this point from importing oil from the US, can't we? What's that going to do? Especially since there's so much oil up here. Of course, Netherlands is getting pretty much all of it, but we're still positive on our fuel, so that looks good. That looks very good, in fact. Excellent. So we're starting to see our modern tanks get to the front lines. Of course, we need a lot more modern tanks to be at full fighting effectiveness. But that's something that we can work on. These guys, they're going to hop into the Coast Guard. And not do a whole lot else. We need a lot more units in our Coast Guard. We also need a little bit more chromium. We'll get that from Turkey. And how are we doing on these constructions? Okay, our last 2 military factories are going to be done soon. And then we're going to work on this airbase over here, which honestly is kind of no longer a super big priority. We can turn that down for now. What other infrastructure might we need? We already did that, didn't we? So we don't really need that. We're going to be done with our factories pretty soon here. We can recruit an operative, and this guy will do. Fantastic. And we're going to have him go... Honestly, we don't need to root out resistance. We're going to have him go build a spy network up in the States. Has the U.S. decided to do anything about Japan yet? Hello, what's this? Yes, the United States is doing something about Japan. That's very good. It's exactly what we want them to be doing right now. Do we know what they're doing as far as manpower, like how they're doing on that? 2 million available manpower, and they're on extensive conscription. Fascinating. So the US is actually stretched a little thin on their manpower. Germany is holding out better than expected. Even Italy hasn't managed to fall yet. Although, it's close. Like, Rome fell. But Italy is still holding out. Europe is kind of a stalemate right now. And that's good for us. We like this. Unfortunately, this is kind of a stalemate too, but we're kind of taking this time to build up our modern tank production lines. That's our primary goal right now. We are up to producing 4 tanks per day, and that is very, very good. Unfortunately, we do have a big deficit of modern tanks. And we are chunking through our heavy tanks still. And we've still got a few left over, and we're going to keep these heavy tanks here for now until such a time as we have this deficit, or rather, until we have the surplus used up. So that'll be fine. And then we're going to toss everything into modern tanks at that point. 46.4% average production efficiency on those, so this is going to basically double in terms of efficiency. So we're pretty happy about that. Gonna get 2 more military factories done fairly soon as well. On Christmas, in fact. One of them, anyway. 13 January for the other, and then these shipyards will be fine, and then we'll work on this infrastructure, which will help us pretty dramatically. There's another fuel refining finished up, and we want to grab another one here for sure. We want to not be reliant on the United States for our fuel, which I believe we currently are not. No, go away. We do need more chromium. It's unfortunate. But, this is looking slightly sketchy, but okay on our fuel. If we were to move our navy... Ooh, this isn't great. If we were to move out our navy, things would get even more sketchy, for sure. So this is going to get split into 2 fronts. In fact, it basically already is split into 2 fronts. There's also some UK holdings over here that I don't really care too much for. Oh, we ended up losing a unit at some point. They must have gotten overrun. We are going to move a unit of infantry in then, and it'll be these guys, since they're the most experienced. So they'll make their way up. They'll get there eventually. You can see our manpower is beginning to drop a little bit again. That's okay. Now, this war is bloody. We knew that this was always going to be a bit tough. These guys are still retreating. Okay. Well, that's fine. We are, of course, cranking up our production on our modern tanks. We now have this maxed out at 30 factories, It's not maxed, but it's pretty maxed. And we're going to get another factory here, and that's going to go into military, or rather infantry equipment, which we do still need some infantry equipment 3 for reinforcement. We are positive on our infantry equipment overall, but we do have a deficit. So that's definitely something we want to work on. Did they bump up their conscription law? No? They have no manpower. They're just pushing us back. Okay. Exciting stuff, that. I guess we were a little bit overextended or something. Yeah, sounds good. It'll be fine. We could always move additional troops to this front. But it seems like what's going on here is Venezuela has turned on us and isn't really focusing on the Allies. That does indeed seem to be what's happening here. Okay, well, that's fine. We're completely comfortable with this. All of our military factories have now finished construction, and we are working on our modern tank deficit. We are producing almost 5 tanks per day now, and that's wonderful. This is still going to roughly double, up to about 10 per day. Not quite double, but pretty close. We're now going to begin working on researching our jet aircraft. There we go. That is something that we're going to be needing as we enter the late game here. Which, we're going to go super late in this, I'm pretty sure. We're going to bump up more steel production. Excellent. We need one more military factory for our infantry equipment 3 to be maxed out. Now we are producing fighter 3s and tactical bomber 2s. We probably do want to work on our tactical bombers fairly soon, because I believe we're going to need those to get jet tactical bombers. Yeah, and we're going to want strategic bombers as well, for sure. So we're going to go down the jet fighters, jet tactical bombers, and the strategic fighter tree. What are we short on? More steel. Okay. Well, it is time to put a cut in here, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. And next episode, we are going to see what ends up happening with this Venezuelan war. You can leave your offerings to the engagement gods in the form of likes, comments, subscribes, and bell ringings, and I will see you all next time.